What up, y'all? It's your man Abuamerican. I'm here live with my bro, Coach Kareem. How you doing, bro?
I'm great, alhamdulillah. Everything's good.
How good? Man, um, it's been an interesting past couple of weeks, man. Which brings us into the topic that I wanted to talk about today. But before we get into the topic, man, how's the situation looking over there in the Middle East, man? With like economics, how's the economic situation looking there? We're looking at a recession over here. I mean,
Yeah,
severe one.
the economics is going down, but like that's usual. People used to it since like few years. Like there's no real severe, let's say, collapse.
Yeah,
Generally speaking, they are afraid in the next 6 months for the food shortages, because like in countries like Egypt, around
hmm
80 to 90% of the wheat that they eat come from Ukraine and Russia. So they are exporting a lot of food from the war zone area. So they are afraid for the strategic reserve of the food, like to have some shortages. Yeah, that's the main
yeah,
issue.
interesting. Europe was talking about like shortages. We haven't seen anything out here where I'm at,
The
but it's
gas,
been
maybe.
prices are insane. I mean, inflation is just
Mm,
out of control right now. I mean, especially with like,
yeah.
yeah, petrol and whatnot. Prices are very, very high. There is talks of shortages, and in the winter, they say energy costs are probably gonna like just be unheard of high because, of course, it's winter in Europe, and
Mm,
it gets cold here, so yeah,
yeah. The next ones are gonna be rough.
it's gonna be rough for sure. So there's definitely going to be some interesting times coming ahead, and that brings us into the topic of like preparedness. And I'm actually I'm going to be doing some lives with some dudes that are like readiness and preparedness specialists. I'm going to have a lot of different interesting guests on, inshallah. But in that, it brings me to the topic of instability. And so what we're looking at
Mm,
right now is like global instability, especially in the West. And this is something the West is not used to. I don't know how it is in Saudi, but out here we're not used to instability.
mm.
And because this is such a new thing for us, nobody knows how people are going to respond or react when they're put in that
Yeah,
situation.
general public take it for guaranteed.
Yeah. People take
They
it
didn't
as
feel it.
they take it for granted, and they take it as a guarantee that everything's going to work. And
Mm.
we're looking at a situation, more and more where there are no promises. So with that, what are we looking at? Nobody knows. I do think that there's going to be an increase in basic and general crime, because obviously when you don't have, what happens? Like the haves and the have-nots, and the have-nots generally want what the haves have. That sounded funny.
Mhm.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So I think
Alaikum
people really need
salam.
to start looking at like uh, examples that we do have around the world. Now, you obviously, alhamdulillah, you're in a better situation than most of us. Yes, this is correct right here. I agree. The false sense of security will crumble. You're in a better situation
Mm,
us than because you're in a you're in a Muslim country, and
mm.
there's a lot of different factors that over a protracted period of time, would lead to stability as opposed to instability, even though things are changing. But here in the West, what we see is every time something goes wrong, they look for a scapegoat.
Mm.
And I think, in my humble estimation, I could be incorrect. I think the scapegoat in the West is gonna be the Muslims. You know, this is my humble estimation. I think,
Yeah, from demographical point of view, it will be definitely the Muslim because they have the highest replication rate, and like the secular governments, like they are accepting immigrants not because they love them, not because they are
yeah,
humanitarian bullshit, blah blah blah. No, because they need to save their countries. They need babies, they need new generation to carry up the economic wheel, let's say. So they have no choice. They have no choice unless they accept immigrants. Like they're falling down. Like if you read the Elon Musk tweet, he says the United States is under replacement rate since 50 years. Since the 70s, they're under 2.1. So what you gonna do about this?
No, absolutely. I've been saying that for quite some time. Yeah, it's not humanitarian purposes that they're bringing in all these refugees. They need to shore up their rapidly declining you know population numbers, because the taxpayers. I mean, you have to look at Germany in this regards. Germany is roughly 86, 89, between 86 and 89 million people, right?
Hmm,
And they're saying in terms of the tax burden. Now, this is a social state. Listen to
hmm.
these numbers: between 86 and 89 million people, and the entire country's tax burden is carried by 19 million people.
Oh, you know why? Because I know this number about Germany. 40% of the population is over 65. So they are taking money. 40%, they are
Hmm.
taking money. They are a burden on the government. They are not generating things like people in the 70s and 80s. They do not generate shit. Like young
No,
people who generate things. So 40% of the population is over 65, and they don't know what to do about it.
absolutely. And not only that, a guy was showing. Actually, it was on a TikTok. One of the best places to get news in Germany, like real time and fast news in Germany, is TikTok. German TikTok
Mm,
is unbelievable. It's better
that's
than any news
interesting.
channel or station that you can find in Germany. It is literally the best place to get information. Even what the government's doing
Mm,
next, what the new policy changes are. German TikTok is just really it's next level, man. So anyway, so I use German TikTok for news and what's going on in the country. And what was the point I was going to make here? Ah, man, I forgot what it was. There was the 19 million humanitarianism. Oh, Allahu Akbar. I lost the point.
90 million paying 90% of the
Ah,
taxes.
yes, with populations and whatnot and all these types of things we were talking about. I lost the point. Darn, that like really makes me upset. It was a good one too.
Mm, it's okay. It will come
Anyway,
back.
I know, right? Anyway, coming back to just Germany in general, I think what we're going to be seeing here with all of this. Ah, yes. Now I know. There it was. Okay, so
Mm,
and someone showed on TikTok that if you make under 1,800 euros a month, which is
mm,
60% of the country, now
mm.
imagine that you are considered over 60% of the population's income if you make more than 1,800 euros take home.
Whoa,
It's- yeah,
that's insane.
it's nuts. So now they're saying basically someone showed that if you make 1,800 take home, it makes more sense to take welfare than it does to actually go to work, because
Mm,
basically you can on welfare make around 3,000 euros take home,
mm,
as opposed to like going to work 40 hours a week and then getting 1,800 euros take home.
mm. That is really interesting.
Yeah, it's insane. And the guy was just running the numbers, and I was just like, "Whoa, that's nuts!" Um, so as this information becomes more widespread, I think the numbers and the figures are going to get even more skewed than they currently are right now. I mean, this place is just highly and overly taxed. But anyway, coming back to the point, I think Muslims should get used to the idea that we are going to be, the scapegoat in Europe, like we have been all over the place and all over the world. Um, we were always the scapegoats. When we look at like the Rohingya, they were blamed for terrorism and this, that, and whatever else in where was that? Myanmar. When we look at the
Mm,
Uyghurs in China, they were blamed for all sorts of stuff. Them dudes ain't doing nothing but making like funky halal food and walking around dressed funny. That's all the Uyghurs are guilty of. They ain't
mm,
do anything to them Chinese people. But they got blamed for all sorts of other stuff, terrorism, this, that, the other, whatever else, and they oppressed those people. Then we look at like who we look at like the Palestinians, they just getting whacked on the head. There's there was the Bosnians in the 80s, they got whacked on the head in Europe. We can just go down the list of modern examples of how Muslims have just been getting whacked over the head left and right, constantly and consistently, and really nobody does anything about it. Nobody cares. When was the last time
Mm.
we saw any sort of intervention on behalf of the Muslims somewhere in the world?
Mm. I'll give you a great example, by the way. That happened
Mhm.
like a few weeks ago, which is you heard about her, the journalist for Jazeera that killed by the Israeli forces in
Yeah,
Jerusalem, because she had the American citizenship, and she's Christian. So everybody got crazy about it. All the news all over the world was writing about it. Like just few days before that, there is a one widowed woman have 6 children, but she's Muslim with full hijab. She
yeah,
got shot in the same place. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody heard about her.
yeah.
No.
Yeah, Raccoon brought up a good point. This was just brought to my attention yesterday, I believe. India now, they're out there shooting. I
Yeah.
mean, India's been an issue for quite some time, but now apparently it's sparked up again. So no matter where we look in the world, we're seeing that Muslims are like, we're the scapegoats for their problems, and then we're the easiest ones to whack on the head because nobody really intervenes on our behalf. When the Russians invaded Ukraine, everybody started like sending all sorts of like equipment, money, weapons, anything you could think of to support those people. But when the Muslims start getting whacked on the head, everybody just conveniently starts looking the other way, and they don't see what's going on.
Mm.
Now, I have been saying for quite some time that Muslims need to be into any sort of martial sport, that forces you to spar. Obviously, when we're looking at like, facing a armed state, knowing some kung fu is going to be a little bit of a problem when you're facing off with guys with guns. But the principle still stands that a man with martial training, he has a tactical mind. You have to have a tactical mind. And you can't defend anyone if you can't defend yourself. Now, I'm going to go on to like a not a rant, but I'm going to go into my whole thing here right now. Listen, guys, it is an absolute necessity that you go into a combat sport that forces you to spar. Now, when I say spar, what does that mean? That means you get into the ring, you get on the mat with a guy who is actively trying to delete you. He is trying to end you. In Brazilian
Mm.
Jiu-Jitsu, as much bad rap it gets, a guy can literally choke you to death on the mat. If someone does not intervene and someone chokes you, you will asphyxiate and they'll be doing the janaza over you. But it's training, and so nobody doesn't really happen. It's happened in a few cases. I actually watched the jiu-jitsu match. These guys were sparring. They were trying, it was like I think it was like for second place competition. Dude broke the guy's back, literally broke his back on the mat, literally
Oh.
broke his spine. So boxing, Muay Thai, whatever you can think of, these things force you to consider and pay attention to an opponent who is literally trying to harm you. After some time, when you stop being a punching bag or you stop being the tap out mat for a guy who's like far superior to you, you actually come to a point where there's like, an equal plane where it's like he now has to actually view you as a threat, because he
Competitor,
can't just
yeah.
tap you out. Yeah, he can't just tap you out at will. He can't just knock you around the ring at will. And then there comes the point where you actually start learning and seeing openings to counter strike. This takes training and this takes
Mm.
time. It is not like something that you develop over like, the period of a 2-minute song inside of a movie. Like you see these dudes doing these kung fu things in a movie for 2 minutes, and the next thing you know, he's like a martial arts master in the next 15 minutes of the movie. It's real life. And you have to train your mind to become a martial mind. Now, again, Let's not confuse it. You're not going to learn boxing and go take on a guy with a bunch of guns. But what it does do is it gives you a tactical mind to understand angles of attack. And people think this doesn't exist. Yes, guns and weapons are different than, combat, but you recognize threat, you recognize danger, easier and faster when you do a martial sport. It changes you and the way you view the world. You're probably from a city. And when you walk around the city, pay attention. Tell me if I don't know, if maybe you do it, maybe you don't do it. A lot of people don't do it. I lived in London and I noticed a lot of people are just victims. They're walking around completely clueless, unaware of their entire surroundings, zero situational awareness. I've never seen a combat fighter, a combat sport fighter that wasn't situationally aware. He just wandering around, blind to what's going on to him left and right, center or whatever else. They're always thinking about whether it's valid or not. Call it paranoia if you want to. He's always worried about, not worried, but thinking, okay, this guy might attack me. This guy might like sucker punch me. And I'm seeing videos in the United States, people walking down the street, they're getting sucker punched. It's like they're letting absolute strangers walk up on them, and they're just like, talking to him like he's not like, like that guy's not a credible threat. And then of course he turns out to be a threat and people get hurt. Now, when there's a mentality in a nation that you can attack a certain demographic of people, your problem is less so the armed security forces, because we know that the armed security forces, unless we're talking about an army, are significantly lower in number than the actual local populace. What does that mean? That means there are probably for every 10,000 people, 100 police officers. So you're not really worried about police officers coming to your door and shooting you or whatever else. It's everybody else. It's your neighbor who knows that if you call the cops, those guys don't like you too, and they're probably not going to come if they know that you're one of those people that we don't like right now. And that person, he is a victim to you when you are a martial man. When you have the capacity to actually harm a man effectively, how many men does it take to take you down? I had an MMA school in Qatar, and one thing we used to always do at the end of every class, it was a fun drill, but it had seriousness to it. And I actually, I actually learned it, and I took it from Wing Chun. There was a lot of techniques that Wing Chun is kind of bunk for actual combat sport. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. But there's actual techniques in there that are so effective that it's like I carried over. So what we used to do is it'd be like 4 guys trying to get one guy. So we'd all have punching gloves on, and you set up the technique that you always go for the outside guy, or you try and cause 2 opponents to collide into one another. But you always try and keep one guy between you and the other guys, and you use your hands, you push guys, you hit them, you go around them, you go between them. Generally, you don't go between them, but if you can go between one and there's 3 on one side, and you keep them on one side, you hit the guy and go between the 2, push him into the other ones. And I mean, guys got good at it to the point that's like, we know what he's going to do, but you still can't get him. Were they to go against guys who don't even know the techniques, because once you start doing the drill, you understand the technique and you're like, okay, now I know what he needs to do. Let me counteract it. But then he's also a tactical mind. He's thinking, okay, he knows what I'm going to do. Let me go around here and do this. It causes you to like see combat with multiple opponents, and you're not going to be Bruce Lee, Jet Li, blocking stuff, whatever. It's not like that. It's nothing like that. It's a lot of running. It's, it's ducking, it's dodging, it's pushing people. There's no like, you see these guys blocking 40 punches from like 9 different dudes. It's not like that. But yeah, and there's actually some videos of that on my YouTube channel here. They're just really, really old. These are trained guys. We were training together for almost a year straight, and they were good. They got good. I got them to a good level. So imagine what you're going to do to guys who aren't trained. You're going to eat their lunch. You're going to destroy them. Now, obviously, there's human limits, but we as Muslims need to be looking at the world and the reality of it right now, and it is a dangerous place. And we have too many just brothers. We have way too many sisters out there that are just delusional about the level of security that they think they live in the West. Now, I don't know how it is in Saudi Arabia. I think it's slightly better. Not even slightly better. I think it's significantly better. Like I said, you have like a cultural and religious difference in your society that I think you guys are safe. But out here, with the instability on the rise, especially economic, and people, they like their comfort. They're going to
Yeah.
turn on something.
What makes it different here in the Middle East is that we have like the population in general have higher moral standard. Like it's very rare, very rare, like for someone to try to rob you, for example, or try to attack you with no reason. Like that's very few cases. Like almost like you can be in the society for 5 years and never face such things. So
Yeah,
that's very rare. And the mindset, the combat mindset, like some of the guys have it, I believe, like less than 5 to 10%. Because I used to get training for kung fu when I was 18. That was like around 15 years ago. So what attracted me to that, when I first met like the guy, the master, he was Egyptian, working in Jordan and training in Jordan. He got around 16 belt or 16 style, what they call. There is
yeah,
multi professions in kung fu, like the monkey, the tiger, the cobra, the drunk master. Like every one of them is a profession by itself, like have
got it.
different combat regulation than the other one. So when I first met him, like he looked to me like a good guy, like a nice guy. And I used to
Hmm.
be packing because I used to lift heavyweights since very long time. So I was around 90 kilogram, like bulk. So I told him, like, do you think really you can take me down? He said, yes, I can take you down. I said, nah, come on. Like I was underestimating him because he was not
Yeah,
like huge. He was, if you look at him, he's like regular guy, but
average. Yeah,
he's there since 15 to 20 years. He used to go to Shaolin temples to get training. But when you look at him as a normal guy, like you do not know that. Like
yeah,
you always underestimate him. He says, like, can you knock me down? He says, yes, and without hitting you. He just grabbed me from my neck for 1 minute almost. And when I woke up, I was on the ground. The people was waking me up. Like I passed out, and I says, "What the hell? Like what the shit just happened? Like that's crazy. Like if he can take me that easily, like he can take five regular person, like easy." So I told him I want to learn this martial art. Like, can you teach me? And I was 18. I was 18 or 19. Like I was young. He told me, yes, like I do train multiple guys, like young men at this place, at this time, at this weekdays. Like you can join us. I said, okay. I met him before we go there. He told me, okay, now you have to run. You have to run to the place. It was around like 8 to 10 miles away. So like, are you serious? You want me to run like 10 miles? He says, yes, and we are going by the bus, but you have to run. So like he got me that humility, like, because that arrogance, almost all of young men have. Yeah, you have that arrogance, like nobody can take me down. Like I have by tries, I have like muscle structure. Nobody can take me down. And when he take you down in like in 10 seconds, and like you passed out, like that breaks something in you, but in a good way. In a good way.
yeah,
It will teach you to understand people, to understand that like you are not superior human being. It give you some humility, and it wakes something else in your mind. It will make you, let's say, thinking by other way, like
yeah.
using other like tactics to think.
Absolutely. I think this is the clip. I'm going to play it, and this is what Joe Rogan's talking about. Joe Rogan talked about this, and it's so true that most. Let me see if this is the right clip. I hope it is.
fight against a comedian. I trained with Bisping twice, and I grappled with Bisping, and Bisping's not even known for his jiu-jitsu.
Of course he is.
He's
got very
he's
good
got he's
jiu-jitsu.
a brown belt.
But his,
I know
his guard, his defensive guard is one of the best in MMA. Very rarely do people pass his guard. When he's on the ground, he's excellent.
But primarily, he's known as a striker.
Yeah,
primarily. I don't fuck right.
You know what
anymore.
It's like? Oh, come on, you'll be all right. You know what it's like? It's like, do you know how people see someone do stand up and they think I could fucking do that?
Everyone. That's how we all started.
Right, but because you're just talking. The guy's just talking.
Yeah.
That's what fighting is like. It's like you look at a guy like Bisping and, he's like a normal guy. I mean, he's obviously very athletic and he's big and everything like that, but he's not Shaquille O'Neal. He's not like some 7 foot something specimen. He's a regular size human. So you're like, well, he's moving like a regular human. I could do that, but you have no idea.
It is.
You have no idea. You're beyond helpless. You have no idea.
Literally.
Yeah. You have no idea. You grab a hold of you. You're a dead person.
Almost anybody in the UFC, any person, the average person, even if you're training, it doesn't matter. They can take you.
There's levels.
And do what they want to do with you.
Yeah, there's intellectual levels. Like I always feel like that whenever I talk to people that are really smart. Like if I have a Sean Carroll or a Neil deGrasse. Damn, I'm fucking stupid.
Yeah.
There's just.
See that? You're mute.
This isn't the clip, but he made the point there. There's another clip where he's talking about it. It's like people don't understand the difference between when you are a trained fighter and a regular person. And it's the same statement. It's like you are, without question, you're a victim. And most people don't realize that. Everybody they like to think, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to be like, the one thing you learn about combat sports is when you learn about yourself, you should learn about yourself when you first join a combat sport that forces you to spar. When you get in there, when you get in the ring, when you get on the mat, you're only thinking about what you're going to do to that person. And then reality hits and it's all about that other person just eating your lunch. It is important that you train as a man. It will absolutely change you, and it is a necessity. We're coming off an entire line and history of humans that knew nothing but survival and combat. And for the first time in our history as a species, there's no challenge. There's nothing. And now we are going crazy. We don't know what gender we are anymore. We want to change the gender of our children. We want to have like weird dressed up people teach our kids stuff. We all of a sudden plants are the only thing we want to eat. We've got just crazy ideas because there's no challenge. Because there's no challenge to us, because there is no survival pressure upon us, you absolutely have to, as a man, recreate it in your own life and in your own world before it becomes a reality. That means you need to go to a combat sport and you need to see. Now, I'm not saying go to a combat sport and act like a psychopath, but you need to go there and understand that when you get in that ring with that guy, you think this guy's trying to kill me. And if he defeats me, I get to walk out of the ring. This is video game time now. But when it's real life, that's it. That's it. You get that one life and it's over.
Yeah.
But your training
go ahead.
is
Go
the
ahead, bro.
opportunity to do it. The training, when you go to a combat sport, that is the time to retrain your mind to understand what it's hitting for. Because what happens is a lot of times people don't even realize the threat and the danger they're in when they're in a verbal conflict with somebody. They don't understand that, people might flip out and he's going to attack you. If you see me in a verbal conflict with somebody, if you ever see me and we meet face to face and I get into a verbal conflict with someone, I always talk to people like this. You know why? Because this is something that works for Wing Chun. Because when someone wants to attack you, your hands are right here. They're not at your side. You don't have time to react and bring your hands all the way up and start blocking stuff. That's why I talk to people like, homie, like, why don't you chill out, man? Whatever else. Because in Wing Chun, they fight like, that funky kung fu stance like that. The seeking hand, the one that seeks to block, and the attacking hand, which is the one in the back. But when you're like this, it's the same thing. Boxing is the same system, it's just a different position of hands. But that was developed over time, understanding that even in the ring, dudes will sucker punch you. You have to train your mind like this. The moment you get into a verbal conflict with someone on the street, guess what? You're in conflict. Now, is it going to escalate or is it going to de-escalate? We don't know.
Mm.
Why are you not ready? You're not ready because you're a clown and you're arguing with people on the internet, trolling and doing stupid stuff, making 9 different accounts, so you can troll people on the internet. And you're going to go out on the street and you're going to be an absolute moron and an absolute victim to somebody who's done like maybe 3 months worth of training. And let there be no question in your mind, people, to everybody who's watching this right now and everybody who's going to watch this in the future. Someone with 3 months of any combat sport that forces them to train, 3 months of training, he is going to destroy you if you've never been to a combat sport. There's no question about it. He will destroy you with 3 months of intense, of just constant training. If he goes to training for 3 months, if he does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 3 months and he sticks with it and he spars regularly, if he goes to boxing for 3 months and he sticks with it and he trains and he spars, the moment you get into a fight with a guy with 3 months of training, he is going to hurt you. Let there be no doubt about it in your mind. So you get a guy who's been in the ring for 4 or 5 years as a hobby boxer, that man will murder you. I'm telling you, wallahi, that man will murder you. And it won't be, he won't break a sweat. Get out and train, people. It changes you. Sorry, but go ahead.
Yeah, there is a question. Shout out to John in the chat. Modern Life Dating, the superior leader, the supreme leader. There is AR. I guess he's my follower. He's one of my subscribers. She says, "What do you think of Andrew Tate?" I guess he mean Andrew Tate. He says, "All you need is a boxing." Now, you have to understand that Andrew Tate is a boxer, so he loves his profession. And of course, he's going to say that. Like, while the boxer is standing, like, he going to rip you off. But if he goes down, the MMA fighter will rip him off. So he's strong while he's standing. If the MMA fighter took him down, he's done. He's not gonna do anything about it. He can't. Yeah.
See, now this is the type of comment that's stupid. Yeah, obviously knives are dangerous, and I talked about this earlier. Armed assailants are not the same as like unarmed assailants. But in this person's logic right here, it's better to be. Why train if somebody has a knife? So hey, don't bother training. Someone might have a knife. That's not a bruh moment. That's a duh moment. You know what? I read my book, The Mad Monkey. I grew up in street fights. I've seen people get stabbed. You know what? Let me show you something. Let me show you something right here. I'm in my sleeping pants. Do you see that right there? Look at that. I've been stabbed. Don't tell me about being stabbed. I've been stabbed. I know what it's like. You know what happened to this guy right here? He lost teeth. I got a nice little scar. I could have died. It's not my liver side. Could have. But you know what? That guy, he's never going to forget me. You know why? Because he has false teeth for the rest of his life. I stomped his face. And his teeth are gone. They can't put those back in. He has false teeth for the rest of his life. Now, had it been a life or death situation, guess what? I would have killed him. But you know why I could do that? Because I could fight. I knew how to fight. He had a knife. He surprised me. I wasn't prepared. I was 16. Completely unsuspected, unprepared for it. He came out of nowhere. He's just a hater. It's a person who hated me and disliked me, and he stabbed me. And because I was sparring and I was fighting, I had a higher pain threshold than the average person. It hurt. But you know what pain normally does to a person who's in a combat sport? It makes them mad.
Yeah.
I was mad.
Yeah.
All said and done, who's the victim? He turned out to be a victim. He's the victim. Now, could I have died? Absolutely. But if I wasn't trained, guess what? Abuamerican wouldn't be here today, all these years later, at 50 years old, telling you this story. So, you know what, homeboy? Bruh moment. You go ahead, don't train, man. Go ahead, don't train. Be the idiot.
From statistically point of view, like what is the possibility that somebody will attack you with a knife, to the other way, which is somebody will attack you with his bare hand? It is very tiny probability. So if you can't help yourself with this very tiny probability, let's say 5%, you will throw the 95% like from the window. Really? Like that's stupid. There is a there is a comment here from John says, Gracie says, if you can show it on the screen, the
Let
ground
me
is
see if
my
I can
ocean,
find it.
and yeah, the ground is my ocean, and I am a shark. Most people don't even know how to swim.
I will swim.
That's amazing quote.
Famous statement. Yeah, it's famous. It's a famous statement. You know, but here's another thing. I've done boxing. I've done Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and let me tell you something. There comes a point where it's like, I don't want to call it matrix, but you start to see punches, you start to see shoulder movements, whatnot. You understand when a strike is coming. Why would it be different with a knife? Now, I'm not saying stand and fight someone with a knife. Don't stand and fight someone with a knife. That's stupid. Don't do it. But if you're cornered and you're a trained boxer, who has the advantage? You do understand that the average knife is about that long, right? That's not a significant
6 inches.
distance. Yeah, it's not
Or
significantly greater than a fist. So if you have training and you're dodging fists and whatever else, do you know how hard it is to stab somebody who actually knows how to dodge and train properly? If he's in a life or death situation and he knows it's do or die, guess what? Is there a chance you're going to get cut and die? Probably. But not being trained is not the solution. Well, it's not pointless.
Yeah.
It's not pointless. If it was pointless, then I'd be dead right now. I would have died all those years ago, and I wouldn't be here talking to you on YouTube right now. It's not pointless.
You know, like I'll tell some story. I have a friend, like he's around your age, American, and he used to be a great boxer, like high tier professional boxer. And I know that, like he did boxing and training. He was training people to box for around like 10 year or 15 year. I saw him once, like from a long distance in a fight in the street, and people around him, like his components, was a lot, like more than 20 guy. Like, do you know what I was seeing? Actually, I was seeing like man down, man down, man down. Like there is a group of people surrounding him, and I was looking. There is man down, man down, man down. Just one punch for each one. Down, 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 down. Like he got it, like he got his ass kicked in the end. But but like around 8 to 9 person passed out in that day. Can you believe that? So imagine if he doesn't know shit. Like this 20 people, like what they're gonna do with him?
Not training is definitely not an option. He's saying, Brahma is saying this. He's like, yeah, dude. Nobody's saying like, if you get mugged, just give a person your wallet, dude. You know, I think the context is lost here. Let's come back to the context for a moment. We're looking at global instability in terms of like economics, the recessions, depressions potentially, and situations are going to become unstable and going to become dangerous. So when somebody is a have-not and you happen to have what he wants or needs, do you want to be an untrained man? Do you want to be somebody who is untrained in that environment? This environment, which is rapidly approaching us here in the West. So this is the context of this conversation. Your nihilistic idea of like, hey, you know what? Oh, he's got a knife. Oh, well, woe is me. Well, then fine. You know what? Do what you got to do. Babe, you hand me that over there.
What is that?
That over there. You know, the reality is an unstable environment. Bro moment. I mean, I ain't going to walk down the street with it, but I'm talking about social instability. And in social instability, if you come to my door, guess what? If you don't have an invitation, guess who's greeting you with this? Bring your knife, homie. You can bring a gun. You can be wearing body armor. You know what this is going to do? It's going to puncture it, and it's going to go through your heart. What are you talking about? So, I mean, pick your poison. This is the problem right now. And this guy's mentality right here is why I'm making this video, because you have a bunch of men out here who are more than happy to tell you to have a victim mentality. You know what? It's pointless to train because knife. It's pointless to train because gun. But all these combat specialists, I worked with them because I worked with the United States military for 13 years. You know what they do? They train with weapons and they train with open hand. Do you know why? Because sometimes a weapon fails. Sometimes your opponent's not ready. Sometimes your opponent's not trained. Sometimes he is. But you know what? No matter what, you fight to the absolute death. You don't surrender. You don't give up. You know why? Because it's your life that's on the line. And if your life is on the line, then it doesn't make sense to not fight. And if it doesn't make sense to not fight, then it definitely doesn't make sense to fight as an untrained person. So promote your cowardice. Fine. Abuamerican's not about that. My brothers, they need to know how to fight. They need to have the mentality of a fighter. You know what the mentality of a fighter does? It changes you from a cowardice mentality, a fear of conflict mentality, to a mentality that makes you conflict ready. Why is this important? It's not to be conflict ready to fight someone with a gun or a knife. No. But if it comes down to actually having to use a gun or a knife, you already have the framework for aggressive combat stance in your mind because you've been doing it for years. Good sir, don't argue with me with your pathetic comments and arguments. It just tells me that you're a person I wouldn't want on my zombie apocalypse team. You're useless. Bro, go find some black pill videos to go hang out on and talk about, yeah, women are the worst or whatever else. We're talking real talk right here. Men who need to understand that you have to have a specific mentality in order to survive in tough times. Combat sports are going to give that to you. Now, if you lack the ability or context to actually understand that, then you're the very type of person that's going to end up being a victim no matter what you do in life. Of course. I can't help you.
Yeah, there is some cowardness to not accept that, because even if you're going to fight to war zone, and people have AR-15 there, and I give you two options: to take a handgun or to take nothing. So what are you gonna choose? I will choose the handgun, even if it's not efficient as much as I need, but handgun is better than nothing. So in that in that frame, or in that situation, when you say if he has a knife and I'm a good boxer, no, it's not gonna help me. No, it is. It is gonna help you, because if you have the sense, the sense of surrounding of a boxer, that's gonna help you a lot. That's really gonna help you. But if you're Joe the schmug, the idiot, skinny, no fighting skills at all in the street, and the same guy come with the same knife, he will fuck you up. Your opportunity is zero, literally zero to fight back. But if you are a trained boxer, no, it is not zero at all.
I understand what you brothers are trying to say. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I understand what you're trying to say with this. You can't get stabbed. Absolutely. Like I said, nobody's telling you to go out and fight people with knives. He's got a knife. Oh, I've done boxing for 6 months. I'm going to fight this guy with a knife. Nobody's saying do that. What I'm talking about is we are heading into new territory here in the West right now. We don't know what's going to happen. There might come a point where you have to, where you are cornered and you have no choice. You know why? You know why a lot of people kill people in terms of petty crimes? Because it's easier to empty the pockets, and it's faster to empty the pockets of a dead person than it is a living one. Someone who's laid out, bleeding, he's thinking about nothing but protecting his wounds, whatever else. So when you're in a situation, when you're in a city or whatever else, most of those conflicts can be avoided. But when you start talking about economic instability, going into recessions and depressions, now your options have been changed entirely. This person is life or death with you, and you're in a life or death situation. Do you want to be unequipped entirely in one of those situations? You obviously don't. Yeah, fighting is boring because you suck at it.
Yeah.
That's why it's boring, because you're no good. Just be fair. When you're good at fighting, you love it. When you get good at fighting, what do? You want to find somebody who's better than you because it's challenging again. It becomes even more exciting because now you're like, okay, if I can at least get to a baseline where this guy can't knock me out in 2 seconds, then I'm really good. It's ego. It's 100% ego, and it feels good when you know you're good at fighting.
Yeah, somebody here said it. Maybe you should bring knife yourself, but to be a good fighter with a knife is better than to be holding a knife with knowing anything else.
Indeed. I have a knife. I have a Smith & Wesson knife. I have a big long one. I have knives. I carry the Smith & Wesson around all the time. I carry my knives. Yeah. I mean, I think you should. I think every man should actually have a knife. I don't think there should be laws against it. Obviously, there are. United Kingdom is, that's really working out well for them. But yeah, I think a man should be allowed to walk around armed. I don't think you should be allowed to go around causing mayhem. But I do think men should be allowed to protect themselves because obviously the state is not doing a very good job of it. So, especially in the West, There you go. That's a good point. Experience in martial arts excuse me again, let me start over. Experience in martial arts might prevent a stab, but it could prevent the stab from, it might not stop. Okay, I see what you're saying. You're trying to say it might not stop a stab, but it could prevent it from being lethal. And that's true because there are angles of attack. You have to understand, in all combat sport, there's only so many angles of attack that a person can take because there's only so many particular directions the human body can move. I did latosa eskrima. It's stick and knife fighting. And when you learn the basics, you understand that, like, okay, a guy can only attack you so many ways with a stick or a knife. It significantly changes your perspective on someone attacking you with a baseball bat. Now, would you want to fight someone with a baseball bat? Absolutely not. Then if you're in a situation where a guy just hates your guts, you're a Muslim and he wants to get you. He doesn't want your money. He doesn't want your wallet. He just doesn't like you. Let me ask you something. Do you think, not you, let me take this down so it's not confused, but every these people arguing and whatnot and speaking against learning a combat sport, this goes back to what I said. I love my brothers in Islam, but most of y'all are cowards. Y'all are good at eating shawarma and rice, and that's what y'all want to do. Y'all are cowards. And this is why stuff like in New Zealand, it happens. One guy walks into a masjid, he shoots a bunch of Muslims and gets away with it. How is that possible? You should have rushed that dude, but everybody's like a bunch of chickens. We're going down. You know what? Then let's take him. If I'm going down, let's go get this dude. But anyway, what you laughing at? What was I saying earlier? She done threw me off with her laughing.
Yeah, someone says you can use a pen as a knife. I always carry a pen, always, 24/7, like a metal one. You can use it as a knife.
Oh yeah, sorry, I got my point back. So my point is, we're talking about situations like with the Rohingya. We're talking about situations like with the Uyghurs. We're talking about situations like brothers and sisters in India, Bosnia, whatever else. They're not coming for your money or your car or your wallet or this or that or your Rolex if you have that. They don't want that. They want you dead. They don't like you. So, no, it can't. Every bad situation, he said I'm delusional because I think every bad situation can be prevented or stopped. No, I don't think every bad situation can be prevented or stopped. I don't. But I know being trained in combat helps you a lot more than not being trained. You see, someone help me understand the mentality here. It's cowardice. It's nothing else but cowardice. I'm delusional,
he's arguing. He's arguing like females. He just twists what you say to prove his point. Nobody says it's prevented at all. It lowers the chances. Like just
turn
on your mind.
Agree. We're just gonna block this dude. He's just being stupid. So here, anyway, the point is, people are gonna hate you because of what you are, which is a Muslim. You got to be ready. You got to be ready to fight, and you got to have the mentality of fight. And fighting gives you a tactical mind. No, it's not going to make you a special forces warrior that can, run through the bushes and, survival overnight. But you come to find that the more you train, the more you start thinking in your entire environment, in your entire life in a tactical method and way. And it is literally life-changing. And sometimes, most of the time, you don't notice it, but others do. People know when you're dangerous. They can just smell it on you. You know how certain wolves and whatnot, they face off and then one backs down before it actually turns into a fight because he's like, this guy, there's something different about him. We have that amongst us as men. We see, when I have a homie. He's in Qatar, security. He works for the royal family. Well, he's not there anymore, but he used to work for the royal family as a bodyguard. And when I first met this guy, we walked up, shook hands, salam alaikum. He had that look in his eye. And there was no doubt, no question that this guy was a killer. And he was. Turned out he was like an ex-Latin king who became a Muslim. And he had seen some serious stuff. Did like 10 years in jail for like multiple issues and whatnot. Got released, to work in security in Latin countries because he had the language speciality and he had the weapons training. And then alhamdulillah became Muslim and ended up working for the royal family. You see it. At that time, was I a good fighter? Yeah, absolutely. In my mind, was it clear that this guy was an absolute killer? Absolutely. Was it clear in my mind that I was going to be absolutely polite to that guy? Absolutely. Was I scared of him? No. But that's just not smoke I want. And this comes from training. And that guy, he was relentless in his training. And we had this conversation multiple times. I trained with him. He trained me in boxing and combat sports, my entire time in Qatar. Amazing brother, still alive, still talk to him regularly, mashallah. Let me tell you something. I don't care what situation you put that guy in. He's not a victim. He's not a victim. It's a mentality. And you can untrain that victim mentality in your mind. Now, does that mean you're Superman now and you're not going to get killed? I'm not saying that. But you have to have that mentality that I am not going to become a target. And only combat training is going to do that for you. Yeah. I have more than one crossbow actually. So I have crossbows on multiple floors. This is the one I have up on the top floor. I have another crossbow downstairs. It's a tactical one. Yeah. I got weapons all over the house. I got machetes, crossbows. I have to go pick them up. I have 2 handguns. I have a 40 caliber and a 22. You ain't coming through Abuamerican all easy. It's not gonna happen. That's why I wish one of these online trolls would find my house. They ain't gonna find you. You'll find my house, but they're not gonna find you because when you go out this window out here, there's woods that just never end. I'll just leave you out there for the pigs to eat. So we got nothing but wild pigs in forest out here, and wild pigs will eat anything. Don't come by my house. So no, it's not her job. Does your wife use weapons as well? No, it's not her job. It's my job to protect the women folk of the family, in the house. Yeah. So anyway, let's get back on topic here. When we're looking at global instability, guys, people don't like you. They're not going to like you. They're going to look for a scapegoat to their problems, to their issues. They're going to say, those Muslims, they're taking our jobs. Our Muslims, they're doing this, they're doing that. They're wrecking our economy. They're whatever. The next thing you know, our brothers and sisters in UK are suddenly, they're the new Rohingya. They're the new Uyghurs. They're the new this one. They're the new victims in the West. And you're not going to be prepared. So if you're going to get into a combat sport, get into it now. Because let me tell you something. One thing that we have numbers as Muslims. But if we're all going to be just useless, if we're all just going to be just useless.
Kaghutha is sail, as Prophet Muhammad says. Kaghutha is sail. Like you're a lot, but like for nothing.
Foam on top of the ocean. And if you're going to, you're going to be like that dude that I had to ban, and you're going to spread that useless mentality, well, then, yeah, you're right. Nothing is ever going to work. No matter what you do is going to work. Because you know what? When you take on this victim mentality, you learn how to fight, but the guy's got a knife. Then you get a knife. You got a knife, but the guy's got a gun. So you get a gun. You got a gun, but the government has tanks and airplanes. Well, when does it stop?
Yeah, let me buy F-16.
Yeah, well, we can literally laugh in Taliban nowadays because we saw what happened there. Everybody showed up with their F-16s and tanks, whatever else. Who owns the country now? So that mentality is stupid because we can look at real world examples of people who didn't bow down. And all those people did was train, but they did real world training. They showed up and they attacked people who had Predator drones and tanks and F-16s and whatever else. And here they are in charge of the country after so many billions of in bullets and bombs and missiles have been dropped on that country. So okay,
I remember that. I remember Abuamerican when the U.S. Army was attacking Iraq in 2002, 2003, like when they took Saddam down. I saw that one of like a few of the farmers have old rifles. Like do you know the old rifles like the M1 and the German one, which is a manual, like it's not automatic. They took an Apache down, a helicopter fighter. They took an Apache down with the old rifles. Like they have that spirit. Like even if I have that like around 70 years old rifle, I will try to fight with it as much as I can. And they took one Apache down. It was all over the news. Like we are all over the Arab world was whoa. Like they took Apache down. Apache is a tank hunter. Like, how did you take it down? Like, bunch of farmers, they was shooting at it. They shot a sensitive area, like electronic area, and it down. They took it down.
Yeah,
That's the spirit.
Yeah. Samad, I hate to tell you, Qasim is a friend of mine. He truly is. I've known him for like 7 years almost. So you can eat a bag of Winkies, homie. That's my homie. Qasim is my boy. I get to talk to him the way I talk to him because I give him tough love. That's my homie. He's been around since I've known this dude since he was a young guy. He's still young, but I've known him since he was a young guy. I've been talking to him and coaching him for quite some time, so he gets the tough love. This is my homie. He was in my men's community. He was in the first community, the experimental phase of the men's community. It's close to a decade, like 7 years.
Yeah, chill guys, chill out. We're here.
But here's the thing, and this combat training thing, this whole topic, you guys got to look at the context in the global sense also. Like, who are Russia's top fighters? When the Russians want to take down a country, who do they call? They call the Chechens. Who are the Chechens?
Yeah.
Chechens are Muslims. Have you ever met a Dagestani or a Chechen that doesn't know how to fight hand to hand?
They're warrior by genes.
It's unheard of. You will never meet a Dagestani or a Chechen that doesn't know how to fight hand to hand. You know what those people also know how to do? They know how to pick up weapons and they actually know how to go to fight. They just got that mentality, like you said. They got it in their genes. They got it in their spirit. 4 to 5 years, whatever. It's like, whatever, man. It's been a while. It's almost 7. What are you talking about? It's 4 to 5. It's almost 7 years. I've been in Germany 9 years, and I knew you 2 years after I came here. That's 7. Bro, Qasim.
Look,
so anyway,
Mrs. Abuamerican is monetizing the fights. Like she said, like 50
know,
USD
right?
Super chat and I'll block him. Go ahead.
So anyway, the Chechens and the Dagestanis, they know how to fight. They know how to fight with weapons. They know how to fight with their hands. But it all boils down to that mentality that comes from their ability. They start as children fighting. So it's an easy transition into like more advanced weapons, ranged weapons, whatever else. It's just a slight step, and that's my point. The point is that you're not going to learn how to fight and then go out like on a battlefield and start fighting guys that got guns and rifles and knives or whatever else. That's not the point. The point is to train your mind to have a martial mind, to have a mind of a tactical, fighter. Combat sports will give that to you. Because you cannot go into any combat sport and just start haymaking, swinging, stupid. You can, but it's dumb. Usually you're going to lose unless you got like a rock hard chin like Triple G. And even him, he's a super technical fighter when you look at him. So, guys, we're coming up on an hour. I can't express this enough. My men's community, I encourage everyone to get into a combat sport. I don't want lames in my men's community. I want you to get, it's not mandatory, but I really encourage brothers to get into combat sports, and brothers have been getting into combat sports. They're actually competing now. They're training hard. Another brother, he left the group, but he's coming back because he wanted to just monk mode focus on himself. But he said, he gave me a call. I hadn't spoke to him in almost like a year. He just sort of disappeared off the map. And he's like, we had a call last week, I think it was. He said, Abuamerican, man. He said, I took your advice. I went to a combat sport, and I really started training hard, and, whatever else. And he's like, dude, my life leveled up so much from that. He's like, it just made me like such a different person. He's like, everything you said was absolutely true. And I always give the example of the bodybuilder. You never see how big you are. Everybody else tells you how big you are. You look in the mirror, you're like, man, I need bigger biceps. Oh, my triceps are too tiny. Oh, my shoulders aren't big enough. But everybody else sees this just massive Hulk walking around from when you were a little skinny guy. Combat sports does the same thing to you as an individual and your behaviors. And people see it, they smell it on you. Women smell it on you. It makes you more confident, it makes you more competent, it makes you more conflict ready. You're less scared of people. You're less afraid to get into conflicts with people in general, in a boardroom, whatever else. Not because you're going to punch them out. It just changes you, and it makes you better. You know why? Because conflict is the nature of our species as Allah has created us. What did the Malaika say when they saw Adam? Will you create one who will shed blood on the earth? This is what the Malaika asked when the creation of Adam. We are prone to violence. Now we have rules to our violence, but embrace it. We have been created like this. I'm not saying go out, like I said, I'm not saying go be some Irhabiyin or something. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying anything like that, but embrace that as Allah has created and put it into us. And then we follow the rules of Islam. And when it's time to let loose, we can.
Yeah. Jordan Peterson says it the best when he was in Joe Rogan show. He says, like, most people think that like a harmless man is a good man. He says,
Nope.
no, you have to be an absolute monster. Then learn how to tame it down. But the capability, you have to have the capability. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Like, like write this in your mind, guys. Like, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. You have to be an absolute monster, then learn how to control yourself. Harmless man is a weak man. Nobody wants a weak man. I don't want a weak man behind me, like beside me. The women do not want weak man because they can step over them and they do not feel secure beside him. Like, keep that in your mind.
Yep, absolutely. The camera says something that's very true. You also learn to manage your adrenaline rush and be more tactical in pressure situation. That's true. You are less prone to panic in high intensity, fast reaction situations that are like dangerous. That is true. Abu Future Trunks, he's in the men's community. Mashallah, he's a brother who's training. Mashallah, he's a brother who's competing. Mashallah, barakallah fiqh. May Allah grant you success in your competitions coming up in the future. And like you said, a lot of brothers in the men's community train, and it's beautiful to see. It absolutely is. Mashallah.
Somebody is asking me a direct question, Abuamerican. Like just above.
Coach Cream, I wanted to ask you a question. What would you advise to someone on how to stop doing bad habits and addictions?
Well, like the easiest way, bro, to get a behavior adjustment coach. Like, he will lead you out of it. The long answer, like, you're gonna focus on yourself and write down why what I'm doing is bad. You have to acknowledge and like, you have to really acknowledge why what you are doing is bad, and start step by step taking it out by replacing it with good habits. Like, that's the long answer. If you have a behavior adjustment coach, like, give me a call. Like, you can contact me through info@tripplearabic.com. Go ahead, bro.
Now, Ilyas, he brings the verse 216. Fighting has been made obligatory upon you, believers, though you dislike it. Perhaps you dislike something which is good for you, and you like something which is bad for you. There you go. I mean, anyway, to wrap this up, guys, we're looking at like global instability, and there's nothing we can do to change it. We don't have the capacity to change it. The world is changing rapidly. I'm not, I'm not gloom and doom guy. I'm definitely not that guy. Uh, but I think leading into this, we need to do multiple things. First off, on an individual level, as men, we need to, have tactical plans ready and in place. When I say tactical plans, you ain't got to have like a whole military, plan for your life and your family, but you definitely need to plan for a worst case scenario for yourself and your family. You need to be able to execute that plan. And sometimes being able to execute that plan means you have to have the capacity to actually execute and exercise violence, controlled violence. You know, um, you have to be able to defend yourself and your family. Next, you need a community of individuals who are like-minded. It can't be the case that you or one or two brothers, you train, you take care of yourselves, you make sure you're ready for conflict, and then we hope it doesn't happen, but conflict and instability happens, and only you two brothers become responsible for the safety and security of an entire community. You can't do it on your own. You're not Superman. It's not a movie. All you're going to do is spread yourself thin. You're going to end up harmed, and then your people are going to be left as victims. They're going to be left unprotected because you have an entire community of helpless, useless people who don't know how to do anything except eat shawarma and rice. Leave that to the women.
You really
Learn.
hate shawarma, Abuamerican. Why?
Yeah, I almost died from shawarma in Medina. I literally got food poisoning. So yeah, it nearly killed me. I don't have anything against rice. I just there's this one guy, I hated him. He's a Lebanese guy, and I seen him cut there when we were arguing. I wanted to knock him out, and my jiu-jitsu coach said, "Don't knock the guy out." And he's sitting there eating rice, all talking smack with rice falling out of his mouth. I was like, "You sack of flour." So so yeah, you can't defend an entire community. You need like-minded people who can, reciprocally defend the community and the people within it, because the reality is you might actually, despite all your training, become a victim. You can get ambushed, and then your women and children are hopeless and helpless, and there's going to be an entire community of men who are helpless and hopeless. Who's going to watch after your people if you're gone? We cannot reciprocally, as Muslims, protect one another if we're all untrained. We all have a responsibility and duty for the safety and security of our families, and this extends beyond the economics. This extends beyond, the religious, and the religious is the most important of them all. You absolutely need to do that, but you also need to be able to defend your people, because you know what? Jihad is something our religion has, and we're not afraid of it. We're not afraid to fight. Too many people are afraid out here to be called whatever by people because we say, hey, you know what? We're Muslims and we have that in our religion. We fight, and you know what? We have jihad in our religion. Well, you know what? I don't care if you don't like it. I don't care if you say whatever you want to say about us and our people and our religion. I don't care. You learn how to fight. You learn how to train. You train regularly. You take multi-billion-dollar weapons and drop them on my people all the time. I'm not ashamed that we want to defend ourselves and protect ourselves.
Yeah, it's following the hadith, Abuamerican.
Yeah,
it's following the hadith. المؤمن القوي خير وأحب إلى الله من المؤمن الضعيف. The strong believer, the strong mu'min, is better and more beloved from God than the weak one. Like,
there you are.
That's supported. Yeah.
So guys, get out there, train, get a martial mind. I'm not saying go out there and cause trouble. Don't do that, obviously. But get that martial mind and get yourself together, guys, because the Ummah is going to need you one day. And hopefully it doesn't happen in our time. But if it does, you're thinking about, your women, your children, your moms, your aunts, your uncles, whatever else, whoever you're responsible for. How are you going to defend them and protect them? You don't even have the capacity. Make sure you're ready. Bro, you want to drop anything before we go?
No, we're good. We're good. I just want to add last point, which is the psychological effect of being a fighter and getting trained. It rise up your serotonin and testosterone level. Serotonin and testosterone level is very high among fighters. Serotonin can help you get rise after knockdown, Like when you feel the failure, if you have higher serotonin, you will get up faster, and the higher testosterone give you self confidence, give you more like steel mind or bulletproof mind. If you have higher testosterone, more competition capabilities, self confidence, and a lot of other things like the sexual drive and like all of these around. Like all of that, you will get it. Like if you are getting exercise and training, lift weights, running, combative martial arts, let's say. So why not? Why not?
Yeah,
It's all the whole package. That's it.
absolutely. Barakallah fi for tuning in. Inshallah, we will see you guys the next live show. I'm going to make a regular live show schedule, and I'm going to stick to it, inshallah. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Assalamu alaikum wa
See you
rahmatullahi wa
guys.
barakatuh.